Hello and welcome to Conversations with Carrie. I'm your host, Carrie Adlington, and today we have a very special guest with us named Sally Higoe. Sally is a team building leadership coach. She creates outstanding workplace communities that thrive and create amazing projects. She is the founder of Team Resilience Method based in Australia, and she helps small business leaders within the first 2 years of their role create a cohesive team of self-leading high performers in a world-class culture filled with passion, purpose, meaning, and growth. So Sally, welcome and thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Thank you for the warm introduction. I'm excited to be here.
Beautiful. Likewise, I'm grateful that you are here. So I wonder if we could start off the conversation by sharing a little bit of something about you. Would you like to tell us something interesting about yourself that not many people know?
Sure. I think I did a little snort then. Uh,
It's all good. We're real and raw here on this
we
podcast.
yeah.
Snorts, sneezes, you name it, it all gets on here.
I love that you started with something about me. A lot of people don't know about my background, which actually led me into coaching and discovering the love and passion that I have for creating and building authentic teams. So I have spent a lot of time traveling overseas. So I've actually been to over 60 countries and I've worked in over a dozen of them, leading teams and traveling around. And I was overseas for about 13 years. So I have a very deep understanding of different people and different cultures and the diversity and the importance of it. And I bring all of that to who I am today. And sometimes when I'm meeting people, I forget because it was a while ago now. I got back about 11 years ago. So it's like a previous life, and now my new adventures are my children and the business, of course. It was very interesting. I spent a lot of time in remote environments on private super yachts or chalets or remote luxury lodges, living in the middle of nowhere. So that's definitely how I cemented my resilience through action.
Beautiful. I love that. What I'm hearing that is that you have an adventurous spirit and that you love people and you love to explore and discover. So I imagine that you're actually pretty curious as well.
Yeah, you're very correct. I'm very adventurous. I dig the uncertainty in life, although these days a little bit, not quite the uncertainty that I'm able to tap into the way I like. But yeah, very very curious with why people act the way they do, think the way they do, and yet on the other hand, there's also full acceptance. So the curiosity is only there in a loving form, so that I can really understand why they are the way they are, and able to build that connection. But essentially, there's also that level of me that has no curiosity when I meet people, and just wants to hang out with them and get to know them and understand how they've lived their life. So I guess that's curiosity.
Yep, that's all. It's curiosity for sure. And I love that because when we are curious about people, it opens up doors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, we get to see other people's worlds. And I imagine that's the whole thing about the traveling is we get to open up the mind and take in whole new things. And we discover more about ourselves in that journey.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I fell into that love without really understanding why I wanted to be out there in the world. But I thrive on connection. It's a core need of mine, and I bounce off other people. And then I realized that I have a really good ability to be able to build that rapport and emotionally connect to be able to understand people's needs. So it's a passion and something I've fallen into. And like I said, it's led to where I am today. And I think what my greatest message when I came away from traveling, my message for myself was that there's really no need to conform to any societal pressures anywhere, although most people do. It comes from our programming, etc. Without going into where it comes from, people feel this need to have to conform to everyone that's around them. And yet when you meet so many different people and you're out there in the world and you're experiencing different ways of living and different environments, then there's such a variety of different kind of people, and people love people for those little quirks and that uniqueness that they bring. So that was what I really came away with, tap into who you are and be okay with that, because everybody is so different.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing as you're sharing that is really about celebrating our uniqueness and expressing, not being afraid to express our own thoughts and opinions when they differ to cultural, societal norms, in inverted commas, because what's
Definitely.
normal.
Yeah, that's right. And it's exactly that. It's definitely for me about that right to be unique without that pressure to conform to those societies and expectations, because that really is acceptance. And when you do have that acceptance in others, then it increases your own self-acceptance, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter which comes first. It's that acceptance. And when you can accept that everybody is different, then you give yourself permission to own who you are as well, and to be able to, as you say, tap into that uniqueness and then embrace it and really own it. And when you can bring out qualities that other people don't have, then they're attracted to that. And I've really noticed that, when a person does do that, that others do find it really, admirable.
What I'm hearing is resonating so much with me, because self-acceptance is something that's really key to what I do as well. And what I noticed for myself on my own journey as well is when the self-acceptance is really key to our own healing. It's because we're not pushing away the things that don't matter, or we think, oh, I shouldn't have that, that's not right, that's wrong. The judgments, we can let go of all that stuff, which is really heavy.
Exactly. That's I don't even need to talk. You could just interview yourself today, Carrie, because my sentiments exactly. One of the things that I, like the benefits that stem from self-acceptance are that ability to be able to increase your self-respect and respect of others, which lowers that judgment. And when you can lower your judgment, then you're opening your mind to new ideas and to creating opportunities. It improves that self-confidence as well. And, you can learn new things when you're feeling more confident. And like you say, you can push through a little bit more and be able to be more objective as well, without potentially maybe not removing your emotions so much, but a little bit, I guess. And I think it's about understanding that you can't force yourself or others to be any different to who you are. You are who you are at your core. And when you naturally increase that acceptance, then you become more peaceful and more calm. And, maybe that's what you're saying and experiencing as well. And then that's what leaves you open to so many more experiences.
Yeah.
And that is a part of resilience for sure. And I think every leader should embrace that quality. We're talking generally here and holistically, and, but for me, that's how I guide my leaders on the person that they should become to be a great leader.
Yeah. And that's so key, because as whether we're talking personal development, or whether we're in our own lives, or whether we're talking entrepreneurs, we're all leaders in our own lives. So I love that you touched upon that point as well, as you're talking about leadership. It's not just people in leadership roles where it's like a label. We're all leaders in our own lives and our own right. It's like, how are we showing up?
Oh, well, that's right. I was going to say, and the biggest leaders are parents. And, many people don't consider themselves a leader. And whether you've got a child or you've got a team, or you're still leading yourself, and how you show up is everything. It's if you can represent how you show up in who you are, then that's when you get that alignment and that peace that we were talking about as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very important.
Now, you've touched on resilience a few times, and of course this is your jam. This is what you're all about. So I wonder, because you're talking about how self-acceptance is also a part of being resilient, so perhaps you could tell us a bit more about your 3 pillars of resilience.
Yeah, thanks. Sure. So the self-acceptance comes into what I believe is created when you blend the three pillars of resilience together, the three pillars that I work with, and they're trust, self-awareness, and communication. And self-awareness, relatively self-explanatory at this stage, but trust and communication, they're not just about trusting and communicating other people or having them be able to do that effectively with you. It's about trusting yourself also, and being able to communicate with yourself, just like we were talking about then, being able to communicate with yourself in an effective way that is also judgment free. So when you get those three right, it increases your self-acceptance, which builds your resilience.
Beautiful. Yeah, so what I'm hearing there is that the self-acceptance is because of the other three pillars of trust, self-awareness, and communication. And the communication, the trust we have with ourselves is just as important, if not more important, than what we have with other people.
Correct. When you get it right with yourself, you can get it right with others.
Beautiful. So tell me, I'd like to know more about the self-awareness aspect. Is there certain aspects of the self-awareness pillar that we need to be aware of when it comes to being more resilient?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, it's an essential trait to build. It's you can't be resilient, you can't lead yourself without having a level of self-awareness. Obviously, the deeper the level, the more effective and the stronger results you'll get. What it does though, and once again, you've touched on this and brought it up already, because really everything that I talk about, it intertwines together and they lean on each other. But it really helps you to understand your emotions when you're aware, and it gives you, and also your needs, what you feel that you need. And when you can understand what you need, it helps you to make decisions also. So there's a bit of a hierarchy going on also. It helps you to understand your habits, what might be resourceful and what's unresourceful, whether you're functioning in a way that is going to empower you and others, or whether you're quite dysfunctional in your habits and your needs. So it's about understanding who you are and what you truly value, and how all of that affects how you act and how you come across, how you think and how you feel also, to be honest. And then when you can bring in that self-awareness in as objectively as possible, and ideally, the goal is to get to a subconscious level of being able to do it, then you can really pinpoint where you want to be and where you might need to adjust. So you can look at how you might want to feel on a daily basis, so regularly, and then be able to see where you might need to make a little bit of improvement or a bit of adjustment to be able to reach that goal, because everything is related to your internal resources and how you feel. So when you can tap into that, then you can adjust yourself accordingly to get to where you want to get.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm loving what you're sharing, because there's so much depth to knowing what makes us us. And there's lots of different layers to that. And like I say, getting to that subconscious level, because it's the subconscious that runs most of the show, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's my understanding is the conscious mind is just a tiny fragment. It's like the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And we barely scratch that. So getting down to that subconscious layer would be pretty epic.
That's right. And yeah, I was going to say it's exactly like that iceberg picture that many people have seen. And it's was it like 5 or 10%, I think, is in your full awareness, in your conscious ability to be able to pinpoint what's happening. But when we go down into our subconscious, that can be developed more through habits, by being aware. Sometimes with my clients, I'll get them to set a timer throughout the day, 3 times a day, and get them to tap into, what am I doing right now? Why am I doing this? And how is this making me feel? And when you can build that habit and begin to ask yourself those questions naturally when something feels a little bit off, then once again, that's when you're able to adjust accordingly.
I love that technique, that tool. So just to remind people that are listening, because I'm thinking I'm going to take notes here. So what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And how is it making me feel?
Yeah, yeah. You can listen to the recording if you'd like, Carrie. You don't need to take notes.
It's true. I can listen to it again whenever I like.
Yeah, it works for tapping into motivation as well, like to understand what motivates you. Mm.
So I'm curious now when you say that, because when we understand what motivates us,
Mm-hmm.
then we can actually we can be, I suppose we know what, well, it's like you were saying before about the values, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know, okay, I'm doing this, I know why I'm doing it now, and I suppose you can also ask, well, is that really something that's beneficial to me? Is this really helping me in to feel good about myself and going to where I want to go and who I want to become?
Yeah, I like the second part of what you said. Is it helping me to become who I want to become? The first part, depending on what level of self-awareness you have, can be a little bit tricky because you may not understand what is beneficial to you.
True.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, perhaps on that surface level or that conscious level, you'll understand. But until we have that awareness and it's built, then yeah, it's good to be able to, everybody can learn to tap into their feelings when they begin to pay attention to them. So I like the second part that you said. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, tapping into that future self.
Yes, that's right.
Who
That's
I
right.
want to be.
And it's
Yeah.
always easier when someone else is asking you the questions, especially when they're being fired at you, because when you're thinking of the question, you're starting to think of a response, and it could come from your conscious brain rather than your subconscious brain.
That's so
Those tricks
true.
on you?
Yeah. Yep, and I've experienced that a lot when I've been coached as well. When people just fire a question at you, like, oh,
Yeah.
and sometimes that I don't know comes to mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay too, to learn to embrace that I don't know.
Yes.
Um, I found that so incredibly powerful. I used to get stuck there. It's like, I don't know, I'm stuck. Why don't you know? You should know the answer. You ask me the question.
I think it's okay to sit with it a little bit. And then I think it's also important to try to see whether or not it's just an out, because sometimes, it's pretty well accepted. I don't know. So there's a level of tapping into perhaps somebody else's conscious with emotional awareness as to whether they're just copping out a little bit or whether they really don't know. And if you don't know, then yeah, that's okay. The next step is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to, learn something, or are you going to sit with that? I don't know. And is that okay?
Yeah, going the next level, the next step, not just leaving it
Mhm.
there and going, okay, I don't know. And that is the cop out, isn't it?
It
When
can
you
be.
decide,
It
I'm
can
not going to do
be.
anything about it. That's the cop out right there.
It can be, yeah. There's also that you don't know what you don't know. So if you really don't know, then geez, let me not know. But yeah, then
Absolutely.
you learn from it.
Yeah, on that, it's like, as I'm, oh, well, bleh, get my words out.
I do that all the time. I tell clients my brain speaks faster than my brain works. See, there you go, faster than my mouth. So just bear with me.
I'm not the only one. It's all good. I love it. I love when we're just raw and just real. It's like we're human. We
We
mess
are.
up. The mouth sometimes does not work as we intend.
Embrace it.
And I'm trying to remember what I was
Sorry, I
actually going to
interrupted.
say now. It was about the I don't know. Oh, that was right, because of that I don't know what I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know it yet, that when you go and start figuring it out, that you suddenly start to realize that there's a whole lot more that you didn't know.
Yes, there's that rabbit hole. Can be. It's commitment to growth, though, and we all have that choice on how much we want to take our learnings to benefit ourselves. How some people are ready to take on more and to dig deeper, and others aren't. I think it's important to really focus on building that strength within yourself and that inner strength, to develop there, and to put your curiosity into yourself for all the reasons that we were saying before. Um, before going into the worrying about the I don't knows of the rest of the world. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that too, because especially in these times where we have no idea what's going to happen from one day to the next.
That's
And
right.
things are beyond our control as well. So I think
Mm-hmm.
what you just said is so valuable and it's such a key point.
Thanks.
So thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure.
So would you like to talk more about your other pillars that you mentioned about self-trust? You actually mentioned trust, which is also
Mm-hmm.
related to self-trust as well as trusting others.
So my take on that is that trust is developed through self-awareness. Okay. So when we're talking about, so I'll just keep it talking about us. When you can bring in that ability to be able to be aware of who you are, and also bring in the communication as well, with the healthy communication with yourself through that self-awareness, then you bring that, you build your confidence and respect, the self-respect also. And then you learn to, you rely on yourself a little bit more. And when you can rely on yourself more, you tend to follow through more. When you follow through more, you get stuff done, and then you have reference points of self-trust that you can build on. So, trust for me in a business is the trust within yourself, and also the trust in the systems. So, trust has two forks, definitions. I don't know. Never said it like that before. Within my pillars of resilience.
I love that you're just letting the words flow and exploring new ways.
That's me.
Right here in the moment, modeling it. Beautiful.
I was going to say I embrace what I teach.
And that's really important too. Doing and being how you say that it's possible to be, and showing up in that.
Yeah, and it doesn't always work for me. When I say, I mean, it works for me personally. It might not always get the results that I want, yet I'm always left feeling like it's okay because I was true to me, and that's what's important. And that's, we touched a little bit on vulnerability at the very, before we started talking officially within the podcast. And when you can embrace your vulnerability and be okay with it, then the right people will come to you and the right things will happen to you and you'll get the right results. So some people don't like the way I embrace myself, or I'm comfortable with myself, or I might giggle or laugh, or, but that's okay. That's okay. As long as I do.
I love that you had that on last one again. And that's really what self-trust is about, isn't it? Just trusting that that you're okay with you in the moment. Mm-hmm. Even if someone else didn't like it, that actually, I'm okay as I am. And I'm trusting that.
And that comes from that self-acceptance, or that, not even self-acceptance, that acceptance that we were talking about. Because I accept that I will not resonate with everybody. Nobody will resonate with everybody. But the right people and the right environment will appear when you're being yourself. And that's how you create alignment in your life and in your business also, when you have that ability to do that. And sometimes I'm a little bit quieter than others because I'm a little bit uncomfortable. You can't just always go out there and be yourself, but you can accept that whatever decision you made in that moment is who you were, and you were doing the best that you could in that time. And then once again, if you want to dig deeper and decide that that's something that you want to grow from, then you dig deeper there. And this is why I love the trust and the self-awareness, and we've been tapping on the communication, is because it's all within you. So you have, I don't like to use the word control, but you have control over how effective you are within these pillars, which means that you get to design your future based on where you go with it. Did you like that segue?
Oh, I did. I love that. And I could see you lighting up as you were sharing that too.
I went to say it and then I remembered. Love it.
I love what you're sharing so much, because I can see from your sharing how each part is so integral to the others, and you can't have one without having another. And the more that you explore one, the more that you'll grow and expand in another.
Mhm.
So like, when you say growing your self-awareness, it means that you can trust yourself more. Trusting yourself means you're going to be able to express yourself more, because you're going to know that, like I say, you can accept that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Mhm.
And
Excellent.
thinking about business and thinking about entrepreneurship, that's so key when we're choosing our niches, for instance, because they're going to get a lot more no's than you're going to get yeses. So
Mm.
having this and being able to build that resilience through the challenges that are going to come up is so crucial. So I love so much what you're sharing.
Yeah,
See
thank
how
you.
this would affect and help someone on their entrepreneurial journey. And so I trust those of you who are listening are seeing that value too. What you're sharing is such gold.
Thanks, Carrie.
So you were mentioning about those three pillars. Actually,
Mhm.
do you want to speak a bit more about the communication side of it? Because we haven't actually gone into that specifically on its own yet, have we?
No, no, and once again, they all tie together. So the communication refers to both internally with yourself, how the inner critic works and how your ego wants to react to certain situations, and also the obvious externally with others as well. And you can achieve that by looking at the states. How can I say this? So looking at how you are, like your states of being, I guess is what I was going to say, how you are, and your mindset strategies so far, by having someone to help you to dig into how you strategically think, what your decision-making processes are, how you might approach an uncomfortable situation. So when you have to have that ability for self-awareness to be able to understand how you internally communicate. I do it through behavioral profiling within my business to help people to really tap into how they communicate and who they are. And this helps people to understand how to communicate with each other as well. But really, that in-depth understanding of how you communicate also gives you that understanding of how other people might see and hear you and feel you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Because what I take from that is, if you're communicating with yourself quite negatively,
Mhm.
that's going to affect how you relate to other people. If you think badly of yourself, well, how are you going to show up? Are you going to show up confidently? Or are you going to show up with feeling like you're safe with other
Mhm.
people?
Mhm. It
So,
also determines perception along
mm,
that from other people, how you're going to be received, I should say, because we're
yeah.
talking about the fact that uh, we're not worrying about what other people think, but it's how you may be received. So in a relationship, whether it be a work relationship, a home relationship, a friend, any relationship, because I honestly believe that all of this is how you build productive relationships, and that's what makes a really great culture. But yes, when you start to notice that you, like you say, using that example, might be speaking a little bit negatively to yourself, then pretty good chance other people are going to tap into that as well. And there's then the flow on from that is some people, the people that you want to connect with or resonate with may not need that or want that in their life if they're experiencing it. Other people that feel the same and act the same, you're going to attract them, and then you start bouncing off each other in a bit of a negative way as well. So if you can tap into how you're talking to yourself and how you're pushing through when you have a setback. I don't know if you watch the parental guidance show. But there's a one family on there, and everything they do together. What do they say? They say, oh, now I've just lost my punchline. We can do anything we put our minds to, something like that. I can't remember. Oh, I ruined that, didn't I, with my punchline?
It's all good.
But
We can edit that bit out. We can edit out the pause. It's all good.
that's okay. I still didn't get it quite right. But you can do anything you put your mind to, something like that. And when you're communicating with yourself, that comes across in your actions, because your communication translates to your action, which is where I started, your states of being, and other people will tap into that. And you have to be careful if you're tapping into the right people.
Yeah.
Pretty deep there.
That went really deep.
I was trying
Awesomely deep.
to.
And I've just realised something, Sally, as we've been talking about resilience. I just wonder, we should have started with this, I think, that was my bad, if we could just have a definition of resilience and what that actually means and why it's actually so important. I apologise. Yep. We should have started right there.
That's all right, because really we've given a very long definition of how resilience would look and how to achieve, a great version of it, a great level of it. It's about your ability to be able to push through. It's about being able to withstand challenges, keep going through, and I like to say to come out even better on the other side. So when you can hit a challenge and you can look at it and think, it's okay, I'm going to work my way through this and I'm going to come out bigger and stronger and better than before, that's resilience. The ideal is to do it all subconsciously, just push through. It's not about dismissing your emotions and feelings, though. It's about tapping into them. So it's about bringing in everything that I said and trusting yourself to know that you've got this. So when you can build those other traits within you, then you build that resilience naturally. Until then, sure, just tell yourself you can push through and then do a self-evaluation.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is it's practice. It's really about actually the tools that you've given and laid out. It's all about practicing, like building a muscle. If you go to the gym, you've got to keep lifting the weights. You've got to keep doing the reps. No one else can do them for you, and you're not going to lift a dead weight straight away. You're going to need to practice before you can actually be able to do that. Exactly
right. And it is a trait that can be built. Some people are naturally born with more resilience than others, depending on their makeup and their energy style. However, it certainly is something that can be built. I'm just giving you the keys and the secrets as to how to do it.
There you go. It's all here.
Show over.
And it's a bit more than that too, because as we know, what I've learned from being coached is that I can't always see my stuff.
No.
And having someone else go, this is really about such and such, isn't it? And the light bulb goes on. It's like, well, I couldn't see that, but someone outside of me could. And they'll nail it within a couple of minutes. It's like they can read me like a book. And it's like, okay, cool. And then being able to see that, I can then let it go. They'll do take me through a process or whatever it is that they need to do. And I can move through it. I can take an action perhaps to help me break the pattern, to break the habit and move through. And that's not easy to do on your own.
No, and that's where the ability to be able to be highly self-aware comes in.
Yeah.
So what a coach will do is ask you the questions that you don't think to ask yourself. As a coach, when you know the types of questions to ask, you can build that self-awareness yourself much easier.
Yeah, it's true. And even then, the mind can play games. Speaking from
experience, for sure.
My mind plays games all the time. I've got so many tools that I haven't used because the mind goes, oh, it can't be that easy.
Yeah, and every coach needs a coach as well, because you don't know what you don't know. And there's always room for growth.
Absolutely. I keep learning stuff all the time that my coach shares with me. It's like, that was good. I didn't know that.
I think the key ability there is not necessarily, sorry, I was just thinking about that. It's not necessarily being able to get to the outcome when you're building that ability to be self-aware. It's about beginning with that habit of knowing that, okay, I'm going to have a little, ask myself a few questions, or just have a little look at things, or laying in bed at night and thinking, what happened today? What did I like? The same type of questions as I was saying earlier, even, just having a look at and thinking about how I might have reacted that I may or may not have liked, or, just what was good, what was bad in my day, and all those kind of things. Just starting to pay attention to yourself.
Yeah, the reflection on, okay, how's my day been? What did I do that I liked? What wasn't so cool? And can I add something to that as well? Because I remember I remember, I can't remember who it was. I've read so many books over the years. I can't remember where this one came from. Might have been Positive Thinking by Robert Peel. I think it's Robert Peel. I might have got the name wrong. It's been a while since I picked up that book. But it
Yeah.
might have been him where he was talking, or it could have been David Carnegie. Oh, David Carnegie. No.
Dale.
Dale Carnegie, thank you.
Right.
How to win friends and influence people. It could have been him. One of the two. Might not have even been either of them. But anyway, one of them, someone said, when reflecting on the day, when we get something that we felt like we didn't do it very well, actually rewriting it, how would we have liked it to have been? And then playing that story in our mind, because our mind doesn't know the difference between reality and made up.
Yeah.
So if we replayed that scene, it's like we've actually already kind of done that thing, so we can practice it and try it on.
Yeah.
It already has an idea of, okay, this is what I could do next time that kind of situation arises. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. I love knowing that as well, that your brain can't distinguish the difference. So you can really trick your brain into different ways of thinking. And that's where, for me personally, where I get stuck, I understand the importance of self-awareness, and I can, build it and have developed it quite strongly within myself. However, I believe you still have an idea of who you are, and that sometimes that's hard to shake, because that you might think that you're a certain way, even though you can be aware and you can tap into other people's reactions, or you might wonder why you didn't get the response you wanted. But yeah, it can be, you can think that something's happening or is a certain way when it really isn't. And that's why it's good to have a coach or a mentor as well.
Yeah, that's so true, because we only see from one perspective, which is our perspective, and having that
You can
second
evaluate
eyes looking at it,
You're only
actually, have you thought about it like this? And
you're only evaluating with your own thinking. That's right.
yeah, it's like, oh, I had that experience. I had that experience today, actually. There was a lady who was, she's in a challenge, and we're doing a challenge together right now, and she was getting completely stuck in her head as to creating something. She was thinking, oh, I've got to change my brand colours, I've got to change my logo, I've got to do this. And I said to her, we looked within 5 minutes, she was like, oh my God, you're a genius. Because I've just said, no, stick to your brand colours, because that's what your niche needs to see. She's in the LGB community. So she was using the rainbow colours.
Yep.
But the mentor was saying that you need to pick 3 colours. And I said, well, for you, you're anchoring with pride. Your niche is going to resonate with those colours. You don't need to change your colours.
No, and she obviously resonates with them. So yeah, if she can bring in that self-trust, that her decisions are okay. And this is all tricky, because you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fall, and that's where the resilience comes in, because life is tricky and we do come up with challenges in every area. Anyone that thinks that they're not going to is a little bit crazy. And so it's just continuously doing the same thing over and over again, but enjoying the process, because you're growing and becoming who you really want to be on the inside through doing it. But for this lady in particular, then hopefully she sees the positives come out of that, of standing out and making her decision that suits her, bringing out her uniqueness and being okay with that. It can happen in really small situations like that, or huge ones. It's all very different.
Absolutely, because this was getting her to second guess what she already knew. And so she got lost in thinking, oh, it wasn't right. And it just took someone else to see that and go, you know what, you're on the right track. You're exactly where you need to be. You're doing okay.
And she questioned that because of societal pressures, essentially.
Essentially, yeah. There's someone who is saying that they know more than she does, in a way, seeing the expert. And then the experts are great, right? They've done the work, but they're creating techniques and strategies which are blanketed over a whole range of different people. It's like what she's working with is so unique to say everyone else in the room. Where rainbow colours, and the girl was like, don't use rainbow colours. Like, yeah, well, if I used rainbow colours, that would be a mess.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It would be a mess. But for her, with her niche, perfect.
Yes,
And she
that's
just
right.
needs someone outside of her to basically just say it's okay.
Yep.
And that just took the pressure off. It's like, I can do this now.
And you know what? This is a great story because it's increasing her confidence, which is going to make her more open, more trusting of herself. And that's going to allow her to let other people in.
Yeah.
And that's going to help her business.
Absolutely. And part of that as well, because like another key thing was like trusting yourself enough to actually be able to be vulnerable to ask for help. Because she actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." But she
Yep.
took vulnerability on her part to acknowledge that she wasn't getting it and needs someone else just to help her out of the muck.
That she brought in self-awareness, communication, trust, and she's building resilience through her actions. And, maybe it does fall on deaf ears. Maybe it all doesn't work. But what's the worst thing that can happen? She learned that, trusting herself isn't going to kill her. So, it's okay. What's that saying? That doesn't make us, what's that saying? Something about making us stronger is...
Oh, that which doesn't kill us makes us
Yeah,
stronger.
I was thinking, does it kill you? Yeah, throwing that out a bit too much. Yes.
Yeah. So powerful, isn't it? When everything you're sharing is just absolutely amazing. I'm loving it. And it's okay because I know there's one other pillar, one other piece of the puzzle that you mentioned before, and
Uh-huh.
that's about the importance of understanding others as well. I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to share a little bit about that.
Well, that was like what I was talking before about accepting each other. I mean, accepting, I think so. Did I bring it in there or not sure? But yeah,
Yeah,
about,
I mean, like I say, it all overlaps, but we haven't talked
yes.
about it specifically. So it came up a little bit when you were talking about self acceptance, and
Mm-hmm.
came in a little bit when you're talking about communication because of communicating with ourselves, but also other people as well.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more of something that requires more development to understand others. It starts with acceptance, and then to be able to create that understanding, really have to bring in some focus on different kinds of people, perhaps the language they're using, and even the type of things that you did and said before, Carrie, like, hearing what I was saying and then saying, okay, so you're an adventurous person, because I didn't really say that, but it's about reading between the lines with people and really bringing that curiosity and that openness and that acceptance to understand whoever they are is okay. And when you can bring that, then you can tap into their understanding. So it takes a little bit more work and a bit more of a conscious effort to be able to do that. And the benefits, like I said, tie into what I was talking about before, because when you can understand other people, then, and don't get me wrong, you're never going to really understand other people unless you're very close to them. So we're not talking about getting everything about them. It's about understanding perhaps what drives them, or why they, what their laughter means. Is it taking the mickey, or is it, just enjoying life? What, and also getting the fact that when you can understand people on a different level, then that does really reduce that acceptance, that need to feel, to try to accept anything. Does that make sense? I didn't quite get all that out properly, but sorry, someone
That's
just
okay.
walked in. I need to close the door.
It's all good. Go for it.
Someone just walked in, so I got distracted on what I was talking about. So
It's
that's
all
okay.
good.
We'll
Life
take this
happens.
out.
Real and raw here. Real and raw. Ultimately vulnerable. It's all good.
I think another level of understanding is to be able to help them to set up that environment within themselves. So the environment within yourself is all of your internal resources. So if you can use that as a bit of a framework to help you to understand people, because your internal resources are everything that you care about. It's what the emotional states that you want to be living. So your values, what you believe to be true, the attitude that you bring to a situation, where you want to be, where you want to go, all of those things. So there's a certain framework that you can, if you can try to tap into and get a bit of an insight into that in other people, then it expands your mind and it opens up creativity. It opens up so much acceptance, and then moves you on through the other pillars.
I love what you're sharing in terms of this understanding others, because what I'm hearing, first of all, it's about understanding ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And like with understanding ourselves, it's about having that curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and building that self-awareness, and then using those same tools that we understood ourselves with, we can translate that into helping us to get to know somebody else.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
because we're not afraid of getting things wrong, like me sometimes repeating back what I'm hearing, it's like what I'm hearing when you say that, and you can check and see if you're right. And it's like, I used to, in the past, I'd have felt really uncomfortable doing that. I'd have been like, well, what if I got it wrong? And then she's going to judge me for that, and then she's not going to like me, and then she's not going to want to know me, and
And that's how
the
people's
stories
thinking
go.
goes.
And now
Yeah.
it's like, I'm totally happy to just throw it out there on the table. It's like, okay, I didn't get that quite right. Cool. So it keeps the conversation moving, and it shows that you care and that you're listening. And as a result of that, the friendships that we can build, the relationships we can build, and I think relationships is more key than friendships, because relationships covers our intimate relationships, our friendships, our clients,
Mm-hmm.
so much, so many different kinds of relationships that we might have in our lives. So it's such a valuable skill to learn, and that's really important too, isn't it? That it is a skill that we can learn. It's not just something we're born with.
No.
Some
No.
people seem to be naturally gifted with it, and I had a few of those when I was at school. It's like, well, that's, they can do that. It's not me. It's not who I am. I can't be like that.
And when it comes to understanding, there's a few key factors that, even a few key strategies that are really good just to have as a blanket thought in your mind, or if you're seeking to understand. And it's because you made me think about that a moment ago, was that we're all meaning making machines, and you've probably heard that before, but it's because something you said a moment ago was like, I said this and they might be thinking this and this and this and this, depending on the look that they've given, or what it is. But when we understand that, so it's universal, that's the word I was looking for. When we understand that we all make something mean something, and yet two people in exact same situation can have a totally different meaning from an experience. Like if somebody walked in here now, say my son walked in doing something funny, I might think it was funny. You might not think it was funny because interrupting us. But do you know what I mean? And so when we can understand those universal truths, then that also helps us to bring that curiosity and not to presume.
Absolutely. That's so powerful what you just shared too, because we can assume that because we make something mean a certain thing, that someone else is going to have that same thing, and it's not necessarily the case.
That's right.
And that's so powerful to understand that, because sometimes we go, well, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they smiling at this thing? This thing's funny.
Yeah.
We don't know what that person's making that mean, because we don't know their past experience.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And this is a valuable lesson. I teach my kids all the time. If they'll just make a comment without realizing, because most people make comments, and I'll say, well, you don't know what they're going through right now, mate. You don't know what's happened. And that's a part of just bringing that into your subconscious mind. My mind just goes there. And so that's how, and we're really seeing that circular effect of the pillars that I was talking about, and how that one creates the other, and they all can lead to creating a really aligned leader that can be true to themselves.
Yeah. I'm seeing with that, it's just the expansion of trust. Like the trust must grow so much, because what I'm hearing is when we understand, there's less judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's less judgment, there's more trust. When there's more trust, there's more openness, there's more acceptance, there's just more abundance and
opportunity.
Opportunity. I love
Yep.
that. Yeah, it's a great word.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it allows you to, you give yourself more opportunity, allows you to feel okay with thinking outside the box and being innovative. And this is why it can be so powerful to bring all of this into your leadership role as an entrepreneur within your business, because it has such big carry-on effects to keep you from being mediocre and to bring in that excellence that's going to align with you, simply by looking at those internal resources and setting up your environment correctly at the beginning. And most importantly, what I think about all of that is that it makes life so much more enjoyable. It's not a chore anymore. When you've set it up that way, then you're going to fall into wrong hands or something sometimes, but you'll pull yourself out and you'll keep moving on. But majority of the time, you'll be where you want to be, and it's a sustainable life that you're living.
Fantastic. It sounds dreamlike. It's like it's possible, right? It's like
it's the ultimate goal. It's a work in progress.
It's the ultimate goal, isn't it? The fulfilling life. To have exactly what you want, and it's possible, achievable. It's just there's a process to it. There's skills to be learned, but that's the thing. Everything is a skill.
The most important thing I learned, sorry to interrupt there, about all of this is that most people don't know this information. So you just said a moment ago that it's the ultimate, and it's the greatest skill in life, and it can be. It's still always a work in progress. However, if it's just you like that, and you haven't created the team of people around you, whether it be a work team or a family life or whatever, that are on different levels, then you're still dealing with a lot of the same challenges. So if you can just trust yourself, then it removes a lot of the emotion that you might get stuck into sometimes if you don't have this awareness. But really, a lot of people don't know this kind of stuff, so you still have the same challenges, because you can't go and say to people, oh, you need to be more self-aware, or you're not self-aware, or people will only make the change when they want. All you can do is,
and then that's judgment, right? You can say, oh, you're not self-aware, you need more self-awareness.
So you can just focus on yourself. That's all you can do, is focus on how good a person you can be, and to be the best version of yourself. So you can you can, and like I said earlier, it's about that control, but it's not. You can design your own life and world, and you can't change other people.
No, absolutely not. And it brings up an interesting point, actually, because I was listening to my mentor in this challenge this morning, and she was saying how she's from South Africa, and they say they don't talk about money, don't ever post about money. And she posted up on her profile that she invested, and this is like just after COVID had been sort of announced and all the rest of it, so lots of uncertainty. She posted on her profile a few months later that she invested $30,000 in coaches and mentorship, and that she'd earned it all back. I think she'd 3 times, or maybe she'd earned like 100,000 or something, but she'd at least doubled her money on that investment. And she said, my caring, beautiful relations, one of them called her up, her auntie.
Yeah.
She did the whole South African accent. It was basically saying, you shouldn't have done that. We don't post about money. It could have upset people. And she did a whole rant. And the person's actually Lisa Barry, who's a coach's coach. And she apparently just kind of nodding along with her as she was doing her spiel. Her aunt was doing the spiel. And at the end, she's like, thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that you shared that with me, because I know you're sharing it from a place of caring about me.
Yeah.
And she said, I know that was going to upset a few people, that they wouldn't like it. And I did it because it would inspire hundreds more.
Conscious awareness.
Yeah. And so knowing why she took the action, and knowing that it wasn't going to be okay with some people, and including her family. She was expecting the call. It was just a matter of which person. And so she anticipated that too. And so I think she probably had an idea of what she was going to say. But there will always be naysayers as well. And her auntie was one of the first people who said, you're going to go coaching? You're going to give up your engineering degree, 4 years of that, and you're going to go coaching? Are you nuts? Are you crazy? And of course, when she got successful and was able to employ her aunt, when she was needing help because she needs some
Yeah.
help cleaning the house, she's like, well, rather than giving it to someone, employing someone I don't know,
Yeah.
I'd rather support family. And of course, she was super stoked with that. She was really happy. And she was like, I knew you were going to succeed. I always knew it.
So she brought in her awareness and trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
She trusted herself and knew which way it was going to go, and just trusted that decision she was going to make was right
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah.
The only thing that we can look after.
Absolutely. I love that we have these examples of real life examples where this works.
Yeah.
And that you can show that it really does apply, and the difference we can make that on, if you do it on a small scale, it can grow to big things.
That's right. Yeah. And
And
thanks for bringing those in. Yeah, that is an important addition, to be able to see it play out in real life, and to see that it doesn't have to be this whole almighty, wonderful person with halo. Can you see my halo?
It's in the logo behind you, isn't it? You can't quite see it, but there's at least a half halo.
It's not about being perfect. It's about accepting that you're not. It's actually the opposite. And just knowing, yeah, I make mistakes, and I'm going to trust to follow through, and then trust that if I do, I'll fix them, and then trust that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's been a really precious gift for me in particular over the last 18 months, I think.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that too. It's a huge shift to come into the space and to do these things and to create what you're creating.
Yeah, thank you.
Doing what you're doing. I've just noticed the time, so I'm gonna just start wrapping up now, Sally. So I'd love it if you would share, if there was just one thing out of all that we've shared or you've shared today.
Yeah.
What would it be? What would you like our listeners to take away with them?
Why conform when you can choose and perform?
Ooh. Why conform when you can choose to be and perform?
To perform for your own self. Yeah, perform to your best ability.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that quote. Why conform when you can perform?
Because you have the choice. You always have the choice on how you hold yourself, what you let get to you, how you respond and react. And I certainly have my moments. I'm in behavioral profiling, what you would call a high D energy. And so I certainly have my stress and pressure points. And I, sometimes that tomato sauce bottle explodes a little bit too soon.
So remind me, what does D stand for again?
The D is dominant energy, and Ds are typically very results driven, very assertive, outcome focused, and they can be given a little bit of a bad rap, because if it's not used resourcefully, then you can be quite blunt and rude, and under pressure, my family sees the best of me in those times. And it's, you try to bring in that self-awareness as quickly as you can. I'm also a very high I energy, which is the influence of the joker, and so sometimes at really inappropriate times, I might think it's okay to be funny, and it's not sometimes. So it doesn't mean that you're perfect. It doesn't mean that you're going to get everything right. It's about accepting that that's who you are, and that's what's okay.
Yeah. And enjoying the journey along the way to becoming the better you.
That's right. That's right.
Enjoying that process.
So, yeah, that's right.
You don't have to stay where you
are. If you want to.
If you want to. Yeah, it's okay if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Either way. Yeah, it's not for everyone. It's and that's okay.
That's right. And if it's not for people, they won't if someone's being forced into these things, they won't achieve any success in that area.
Yeah. And that's why we're having this conversation right here for our entrepreneurs, because we know that without doing this work, trying to build a successful business is so freaking tough. And I'm speaking from experience. It's really hard without the self-awareness, without doing the work. And that was one of the things that Lisa Barry also shared this morning, was that if you want to grow yourself personally, start a business.
Yeah.
It's the fastest way. You want to do personal development, start a business, because you're going to
Yeah.
hit so many obstacles and challenges in doing that particular activity. You've got to shift. You can't
Almost
stay the same
forced.
person. Yeah.
No, that's right. Yes, yes. And I just say a moment ago something about with the entrepreneurs, but even if, for solopreneurs running their own business, it's still, you still have a culture which still projects who you are as a person, because your culture is those social the norms and the behaviors that come through from you every day, daily, and that's the culture. So even if you're a solopreneur listening to this, it's still something that's going to help to create the business that you want to create by looking at how you're living your everyday life. Some people think that you can just go out there and do the business and you can keep that separate, but it doesn't work for a sustainable, profitable business.
No, you've got to get in there, get there in there and dirty, and it's true because how we are is how we show up.
Yes, and you can have a little bit of a character,
Mm.
that still represents and reflects you. But yeah, it's important to embrace who you are and be able to tap into these skills so that you can lead yourself and then others to the result that they're seeking.
Exactly. I love how you phrased that. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. So, how can our listeners get in touch with you if they would like to know more, Sally? Because I can see there's so much more that you could talk about this all day.
Time went quick.
I know. I did warn you.
I know. I was like, well, that's a long time.
And there's a lot of questions I didn't ask, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
all right. We obviously didn't need to know the answers to those ones. It's all good.
I was yabbering.
So, and you're
So,
doing with purpose.
that's right. LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite regularly, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Sally Higoe, and also through my website, www.teamresilience.com.au with a hyphen.
Beautiful.
So,
And I'll post those in the description as well. Is there anywhere else they can contact you?
they can contact me on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page. It's there purely for your presence. Uh, I do post content on there, but I don't promote it actively. Yeah. And you can email me. All my details are on the website.
Fantastic, cool. And I'll make sure that the website goes into the description so people can hop on there, and your LinkedIn account as well.
Yeah, great. And actually, I just thought, so on my website, there's something there that, it's a free assessment, a leadership assessment that, anybody will be able to jump into and then, have that deeper understanding of themselves and their style. And then if they want to, they can follow up with a free unpack where we'll go through that as well with me. So that's accessible on my website too.
Beautiful. That's exciting, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people listening to this who would love to come and do that, because having heard you even just briefly talk about those different energies is it's such a good thing to know when you know which energy you're slipping into and whether or not you're using it in a way that really supports you.
That's right.
Or not. And from what I understand, because I've come across DISC before, that there's a difference, isn't there? There's what we're naturally born with, and then there's also what we've learned, and those get shown up, don't they, in the profile unpack?
Yeah, only in extended DISC profiles.
Okay.
So I do work with extended DISC. There's about 40 or 50 different DISC assessments. So extended DISC is the only one that does compare who you are at your natural state, your hardwired style, compared to who you bring to your current environment and to the world today. So you can very heavily identify that gap, and it gives that deep understanding as to why you are experiencing what you're experiencing, whatever that may be in that moment. And it's like wiping out the first 4-6 coaching sessions, because it just takes you straight to, as Joe, my mentor, says, straight to that drawer that's in the cupboard, that's in down the stairs and in through the bottom bedroom. It takes you right there to get to what you really need to know to understand how you are accessing your world currently and what you're making it mean for you. So it gives that deep dive into why you do the things you do, what makes you tick. It's really exciting.
Amazing. I think I might be signing up later.
I look forward to seeing it. You can work that out, Carrie.
Am I allowed to say that? Hopefully I'm allowed to say that.
Oh yeah, I feel so.
Awesome. Oh, Sally, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here and to have all your wisdom and sharing how resilience is such an important part of the entrepreneurial journey and how what a difference that makes in our lives outside of that as well, and just loving your passion and your energy. So thank you so much for bringing all of you and sharing that with us today. And for the people who are following me, I'm just letting you know that I have a special offer at the moment as well. And that is a free 30-day trial. I'm super excited about it because this is from a new membership program that I'm launching. And you get to try it out for 30 days for free. You get 4 sessions, fortnightly healing sessions, fortnightly coaching sessions in groups. And we're having the most phenomenal transformations in the group already.
Amazing.
And I'm just so stoked and so happy. And I can't wait to share it with people. So you can come in and give it a go. And so I'll post a link in the description as well. And you can access it at carrieadlington.com/membership. And I look forward to seeing you in there. The next class is next Tuesday.
Sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Carrie, for having me and for sharing your wisdom alongside mine.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Pleasure.